This is Algebra 1 Lesson 3.3, solving multi-step equations, couple of goals, using two or more, that's all multi means, two or more, transformations to solve an equation, and then doing the same thing in real life problems. Beginning on page 145 in your textbook. Example number 1 is solving a linear equation. Notice you have an equation for this one that says 1/2 x, which means 1/2 times x, minus 7 is equal to negative 10. Then underneath that it says to isolate the variable, undo subtraction, and then multiplication. Now we learned our order of operations as being please excuse my dear, then Aunt Sally. So parentheses, then exponents, then multiplication and division, then addition and subtraction. But notice this one tells you to do subtraction first, and then do multiplication second, or last in this case. When you that's this order of operations, the way we learned it before. This is how you simplify things. This is how you take the left side of the equation and completely simplify it, the right side of the equation and completely simplify it. Anytime you have to go across the equal sign, so anytime you want to move something over, like 2x is equal to 4, anytime you want to move this times 2 over, you work backwards in your order of operations. So you start with addition and subtraction first, then you do multiplication and division, then you do your exponents, and then you do your parentheses. So anytime you undo something, think about working backwards, and that's why it tells you to do subtraction first and then multiplication. So when you undo the subtraction, you undo that by adding 7. And again, this is a horizontal method. Notice we're adding 7 to the left, adding 7 to the right. It's canceling out the left side. Negative 10 plus 7 is going to be negative 3 on that side. So now you have 1/2 times x is equal to negative 3. So the first step's done. You got rid of your addition and subtraction. Now you have 1/2 times x. Remember, we learned to undo a fraction times something instead of dividing, which it is, you do divide 1/2 times x equals negative 3. You do divide by 1/2, but remember, we learned last week, instead of doing that, you can multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1 over 2 is 2 over 1, which is the same thing as multiplying both sides by 2. If you multiply the left side by 2, it's going to cancel that out and give you x. And then 2 times the negative 3 that's already there is going to be equal to negative 6. Okay, take about a minute to do that one. Okay, this problem says 1/2 x minus 5 is equal to 10. Exact same steps as before. Remember, you work your order of operations backwards when you undo something. So we want to start here and go this direction. So we want to look first for addition and subtraction of x. It says minus 5. Undo 5 by adding 5. That'll cancel it out. You know, if you add 5 to one side of the equation, again, here's what separates the left and the right side. You add 5 to the other side. 10 plus 5 gives you 15. This part here cancels out, and you have 1/2 times x is equal to 15. Undo 1/2 times something by dividing by 1/2. But remember, dividing by 1/2 is the exact same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal, 2 over 1, which is the same thing as multiplying by 2. If you multiply the left by 2, you have to multiply the right by 2. This cancels this out and leaves you with just x. That's what you were trying to do. 15 times 2 is the number 30. So x equals 30. Example number 2 is combining like terms. 8x minus 5x plus 16 is equal to negative 29. First step is to write the original equation and then combine the like terms. You work your order of operations this way until you go across the equal sign. Notice going from 8x and putting it together with negative 5x, that doesn't go across the equal sign to the right side. It stays on the left side. So you just do the addition and subtraction there, 8x minus 5x. Then, once you have that done, undo your addition of 16. Then you go backwards and you work this way. Look for anything adding and subtracting with x plus 16 does. So subtract 16 on both sides. It cancels the left side. And then negative 29 minus 16 is going to give you negative 45. So now you have 3x is equal to negative 45. Again, we don't have x by itself. We have 3 times x. So go to the next step, multiplication and division. 3 times something means you have to divide by 3 to cancel out multiplication. When you divide each side by 3, you cancel the left side out and you get just x. That's what you were trying to get. Negative 45 divided by positive 3 is going to be a negative value. 45 divided by 3 is negative 15. Okay, take about a minute to do this one. Okay, we have the problem 2x minus 9x plus 17 is equal to negative 4. Again, combine your like terms. Before you start undoing stuff, you work your normal order of operations. So you want to do any parentheses, then any exponents, any multiplication, division, any addition and subtraction. The only thing you can combine, the only thing you could simplify on the left side is the 2x and the minus 9x, just like the example we just looked at. 2 take away 9 or 2 minus 9. Remember, you're going from the right side. Do this if you have to. You're going from 2 minus 9. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Going to be at negative 7, that direction. Negative 7x plus 17 equals negative 4. You know you can't put negative 7 and positive, negative 7x and positive 17 together because those are not like terms. So the left side is now simplified. The right side was already simplified, negative 4. You couldn't do anything with that. Now you work your order of operations backwards when you undo it. You look for anything that's adding and subtracting with x. Again, if you have to ignore the right side of the equation, then do so. You can ignore the right side when you're trying to figure out what operation you have to undo. But again, undo plus 17 by subtracting it. That will cancel this out for you. But remember, if you have to subtract something or if you have to do something to one side, you have to do the exact same operation on the other side. Negative 4 minus 17, that's a negative minus a positive. Again, if you're right here, at negative 4 minus 17, you're going to go this direction some more. So think of the number line if you have to, the way you don't make a mistake. That's going to give you a negative 21. Then you're going to bring down your negative 7x. So we have negative 7x is equal to negative 21. Now you have no more, it's not any more addition and subtraction with x. You have something multiplying and dividing with x. So undo the fact that this says negative 7 times x by dividing by negative 7 because you want to keep x by itself. If you divide by negative 7, it'll cancel that out. You have to do the same thing on the right, divide by negative 7. We know a negative divided by a negative, just like a negative times a negative, is going to be a positive, and 21 divided by 7 is 3. Example number 3 is using the distributive property. 9x minus 5 times x plus 6 is equal to negative 10. You have to distribute first. This is two different Methods. We'll go through method 1 first. Show all steps. Negative 9x minus 5 times x is going to be negative 5x. That's this. Negative 5 times positive 6 is going to be negative 30. Notice it becomes negative 30 equals negative 10. Okay. The next step is to combine 9x and negative 5x. You get 4x. Minus 30 equals negative 10. Then again, this is the horizontal method, undoing minus 30 by adding 30 to both sides. If you add it to the left, it'll cancel it out. When you add it to the right, you get 20. Then get rid of 4 times something by dividing by 4. It'll cancel out 4 times something and give you just x. And 20 divided by 4 is the number 5. Doing some steps mentally, when we'll do the first step, looks exactly like method 1. When you do negative 5 times x, you get negative 5x, and negative 5 times 6, you get negative 30. Then when you combine 9x and negative 5x, you get 4x minus 30 equals negative 10. Again, notice those are exactly the same for method 1 and 2. Here's where it differs a little bit. Minus 30 plus 30, you add 30 on both sides. They don't show that step. That's doing that step mentally. Negative 10 plus 30 is going to be 20. And then dividing by 4 on both sides, x is 5. So again, if this is hard after you do a bunch of examples, do it this way. This is the method you want to do it. Show all the steps. Even though it's tedious, even though it takes you longer, you'll be less likely to make a mistake. Then once you start to get better at it, you progress to the second method. Okay, take about a minute to do this problem. Okay, let's take a look at this one. 4x plus 12 times x minus 3 is equal to 28. You want to simplify this whole left side before you bring anything across that equal sign right there. So we have 4x plus 12 times x minus 3. You work your normal order of operations just like this. Anytime you're simplifying something, that's what you do. But you can't put 4x and 12 together because they're not like terms. You can't put x and minus 3 together because they're not like terms. All we can do is the multiplication or the distributing of 12 times x, which is 12x. And 12 times negative 3, a positive times a negative, is negative 36. Bring the rest of it down. That's positive 12x. Don't forget that you have to have a plus there since it's positive. So 4x plus 12x minus 36 is equal to 28. Now again, combine your like terms. We still want to simplify that left side before we bring anything across the equal sign. You can put 4x and 12x together. It's positive. 4 and 12 is going to be 16x. Minus 36 is equal to 28. Now, the left side's completely simplified, but we don't have our ultimate goal on this problem, which is getting x equals all by itself. That's what we have to get to. So now we want to take our equation and we want to start working backwards. We want to look for anything adding and subtracting with x. We have minus 36. You undo that by adding 36. If you add 36 to the left, it's going to cancel it out and give you 16x. Still not what we're looking for, but closer. If you add 36 to the left side, you have to add 36 to the right side. 8 plus 6 is going to be the number 14. 2 and 3 is 5, plus 1 more is 64. So now we have 16 times x. There's no more addition and subtraction, so you go to the next step that says multiplication and division. Undo the fact that this says times 16 by dividing by 16. You divide the left, divide the right by 16, and 64 divided by 16 is going to be the number 4. Example number 4 is multiplying by a reciprocal first. Okay. Notice it's easier to solve this equation if you don't distribute 3/4. But if you multiply by its reciprocal, it'll cancel it out. So we have 3/4. You can multiply the right side like this by 4/3. Remember, reciprocal is just a fancy word. That means flip the fraction, 4/3. It'll cancel out. 4 and 4 cancel out, and 3 and 3 cancel out. So you're left with x plus 7 on the right. But if you multiply the right by 4/3, you have to do the same thing to the left. 4/3 times 24. What can we put 24 over? Over 1. Okay. So the number 3 goes into both of these. You can cross cancel. It goes into itself once and into 24 8 times. So when we have that, we have 4 times 8 straight across, which gives us the number 32. So what we did was we eliminated this fraction. Could you have distributed 3/4 times x and 3/4 times 7? Sure you could. But you would be dealing with numbers that are not as familiar, not as friendly as these. So you have x plus 7 is equal to 32. Then you want to undo by subtracting 7, and when you subtract 7 from both sides, you get the number 25. Okay, one more. Take a minute to do this one. Multiply by the reciprocal first. Do it just like the example we just did. It'll be a lot quicker for you. Okay, let's take a look at this one. 12 is equal to 3/10 times x plus 2. Again, you can distribute 3/10 times both of those. It's just not easier because you're going to be dealing with fractions the whole time. So a way that we can cancel out 3/10 is to multiply by its reciprocal, 10/3. If we multiply that, 10 is going to cancel out 10, and 3 is going to cancel out 3. But if you multiply the right by 10/3, you have to multiply the left by 10/3. All we have left now that we canceled out 3/10 is x plus 2. Remember, we can put everything over the number 1. Now we have two fractions we can multiply. Cancel out. 3 goes into itself once and into 12 4 times. Now you can multiply straight across. 10 times 4 is 40, is equal to x plus 2. Then get x by itself by canceling out plus 2 by subtracting 2 on both sides, and x is the number 38. And then we'll go quickly through all of these checkpoint problems. This is, you remember, you work your order of operations backwards when you undo something. So undo positive 3 by subtracting 3 on both sides. Negative 4x is what you still have when this cancels out, equals 16. Undo negative 4 times something by dividing by negative 4. If you do it to the left, do it to the right. These cancel out and give you x equals a positive divided by a negative is a negative 4. Undo positive 29 by subtracting 29 on both sides. You do it to the right, do it to the left. 40 divided by 29 is 11, equals 1/3 times x. Cancel out 1 over 3 times something by dividing 1 over 3. Remember, dividing by 1/3 is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal, 3 over 1. So multiply by 3. If you multiply the right by 3, multiply the left. 3 times 11 is 33. This cancels this out, leaves you with equals x. Distribute 7 times x is 7x. 7 times -1 is -7. Equals 49. Then work your order of operations backwards. Cancel out -7 by adding 7 to both sides. It'll cancel out. 7x equals 56. Get rid of 7 times something by dividing by 7. X is equal to 8.